And we will follow that with a moment of silence, and then she will lead us in the pledge. Okay, so say call to order.
Call to order.
Ask everybody to rise for a moment of silence. Say
Everybody rise for a moment of silence. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's give her a hand. Thank you, Catherine.
Roll call.
Yeah, you're in.
14 present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. With the chairman's prerogative, if you don't mind, I'd like to move the consent agenda up to provide the opportunity for some special business tonight. So, you ready, Mr. Clerk?
You want to do minutes first? Just go right to consent. I'll go right to consent. Yeah. Consent agenda.
Could I get a motion to put the consent agenda on the floor? Ms. Williams, thank you. Mr. Elsesser on the second. Mr. Fennel.
I'd like to pull C9, please.
Thank you. Mr. Rosenbaum.
I'd like to pull C4, please.
Thank you. Ms. Relaford, did you have any?
I'm going to pull C5. I'm going to abstain from that resolution
Thank
based
you.
on the fact that OSF is my employer.
Thank you. Okay, so we have several mechanical items to go through. The first, though, would be that the motion for the consent agenda excluding 4, 5, and 9 is before you. Any other questions? Seeing none, please vote.
Fourteen ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. For those of you in the room tonight, for the first time, I'm really flying without my wingman. So Alan Mayer always keeps me straight on this stuff, but I'm relying on our attorney, our clerk, and Mr. Sorrell. So we would be at C4. We'll start right there.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move to postpone it to the August 8th meeting.
You postpone it for how long? To the next
The
meeting?
August 8th, yeah, next
Does it need to go to committee, or you just want to postpone it till then?
Send it back to committee, I believe.
We're postponing 1 month?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I think postpone 1 month. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Parker. Any other questions?
Give me 1 second. 1 second. Okay, I got it. I'm good.
All right, so please vote. This is to postpone it 1 month. Thank you.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. And we will now just take care of C5 and then go straight to C9. So could I get a motion on C5, please? Thank you, Mr. Elsasser. And a second from Mr. Salzer. The record notes Ms. Relaford's abstention and the reason why. Ms. Parker?
Yes, before we vote on that, if Scott wouldn't mind to just, I'm sure we all received the email, and if Scott would just clarify some of the changes that are going to be made and how that was presented to the employees and whatnot, so that we know that they were informed of the changes that are being proposed.
Sure. Thank you. So, under C5 tonight, this resolution bundles multiple contract awards that are before you for a recommendation. This is, as we've talked to the County Operations Committee about multiple times, something that we do once every 5 years. It is quite possibly some of the largest contracts that you consider. Before you in this resolution are recommended vendor approvals for our third-party administrator for our health insurance, the preferred provider organization, the pharmacy benefit manager for all for the employee health plan. The recommended vendors for each of those third-party administrator is Consociate. Preferred provider organization is Unity Point Health. Pharmacy benefit manager is Matrix Care. We have been working on this for multiple months. I think we actually started back in November or December in terms of laying out the process. What we have done is we've communicated, obviously, with the committee multiple times in public meetings. We've had our, pursuant to the bargaining agreements with our collective bargaining units, we have had meet and discuss meetings. The approval tonight awards those contracts, and a later item we'll actually look at considering changes to the health plan itself. Once we get further on down the line, based on action tonight, we'll actually engage in employee education and outreach to all of our employees so that they can become more aware of what the proposed changes are. And in this case, for this resolution, the awards are for a 5-year period. Next month, we'll be bringing forward a recommendation for the wellness component portion of the project, which is another RFP that was issued, and we will have recommendations on how that will be rolled out to the employees as well. Plan design changes, which is a resolution later on the agenda. We can talk at that point about how those potentially can impact the finances of the county and our employees that participate in the plan, and how it might be subject to bargaining. This resolution here merely awards contracts to vendors, and this resolution, as I said, is for a 5-year period. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you need any more clarity?
No,
Thanks, Ms.
that's
Parker.
good.
Anyone else? Mr. Elsasser?
Are the different vendors that bid on this with their proposals, are those made public, or are those kept only to the committee?
So the responses were sealed responses that were opened upon the deadline by the purchasing manager, which is our standard practice for any competitive procurement. The actual proposals themselves contain a substantial amount of proprietary material, so they are not shared widely. We have a long-standing history with Undland, who is our healthcare consultant. Their team, along with Shauna and the HR team, reviewed all the proposals in each one of those buckets: third-party administrator, preferred provider, pharmacy benefit manager, wellness, and fully insured model. And for the first time in my tenure, the fully insured model actually was price competitive. We do not recommend it because it is not completely cost beneficial for us, but it was close enough that we needed to actually evaluate it and consider it, which is the first time that's ever happened. Do we distribute the results of these bids to the employees? We do not, for the reason that there's a lot of proprietary information. There's HIPAA concerns as well, because the companies provide their pricing in some manner or fashion based on our claims data that we provide them through a confidential agreement and through a HIPAA release. So that's a long way, Mr. Elsesser, of saying no, we did not provide it to our employees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, please vote.
Thirteen ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention.
Thank you.
Be at C9.
C9. Mr. Fennell.
I'd like to propose some changes. Everyone has a handout on the appointments, and Dr. Blair filling the term, Alan's term. But the second one has the county health, changing that to public safety, and the third one from ways and means to infrastructure.
Thank you for the correction. I mistook. The Wednesdays are free. For Wednesdays, I have students. For Tuesdays are free. So fortunately, we got that fixed before we moved it on. So that's the reason for the change. So a motion to place Dr. Eden Blair of 400 West Maywood Avenue, Peoria, Illinois, in for ratification to the vacancy in County Board District 6 is on the floor. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Parker. Appreciate that. Nomination is on the floor. Appointment is on the floor. Discussion. Y'all gonna leave me up here all by myself?
I look forward to working with her, so I think
There
we
you
will
go.
have some
That's an icebreaker, Jim.
good participation, and then she'll bring a lot to the board.
Okay, Mr. Dillon.
Dr. Blair, welcome. This board is one of the most rewarding opportunities that you'll get a chance to serve on, and you'll get to see politics don't really pertain around here, that some of my best friends might have a different letter next to their name, and that's the way we like it around here, because we're all trying to make Peoria County a better place. So it's all about making the community better, and we're always looking to add. The loss of Alan we can never replace around here, but looking at your resume, I see that you'll be a valuable asset to this board, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Well, having had the duty, as the ordinance or statute requires, to make an appointment for this body to consider your advice and consent on this evening, I get to see a lot of resumes, I think, over the years I've been chairman. I only see a few, I think, that really can stand out. And one of the first things that stands out is this is a transplant to Illinois. You know, at a time when we hear people don't want to live in Illinois, Dr. Blair moved her life from Texas, you know, which is often lauded as a wonderful place, and spent some time in South Carolina, and I can tell you that's a wonderful place. And even spent some time in Madison, Wisconsin, which we all know is a wonderful place, as she worked and studied for her PhD. And she's been right here at little old Bradley University, which is in my district, since 2007. And that's really interesting to me, the importation of academic genius to our community, because we think of, you know, our kids going away and never coming back after they go to university. We also have here a person whose discipline is unique in the resumes I see, and I've had to spend some time sort of studying this, so I just would tell you that the discipline in entrepreneurship as a doctoral level study is part of the emerging and evolving science of management in university educations, and it's not this hadn't been around for 100 years like calculus. Been around a little longer than 100 years. But, this particular discipline, as I interviewed Eden and talked to Alan Mayer and a few other people about what this particular subject is for kids at Bradley today. It's so interesting when we talk about our economic development, small startups, or they're talking about incubators or accelerators or $5,000 grants to kids who are trying to develop some idea before second stage funding is required. Things that just make me incredibly crazy sometimes. We have a person now on the floor nominated tonight who really fills an important gap in that area. And her work with gender equity as well leads me to believe that we are adding an element of consistent effort to recognize that our diverse community has to be lifted up, and we need some education on that. So I think it's just a real honor for me to place your name in tonight. This isn't like some trolling politician, looking to fill a part of a term or something. This is a real special gift to us, because we all know with Stephen and others leaving us, Dr. Adamson and Alan, we've had some real interesting turnover, and then of course in our elected officials too. This is just such a bright, sunny moment for us. So with nothing further to embarrass you by, Dr. Blair, are there any other comments to make before I ask the vote? Seeing none, please vote on the nomination of Dr. Eden Blair to the Peoria County Board District 6.
14 ayes, 0 nays.
Congratulations. Dr. Blair, this young man is Clerk Mike Delury. And did you bring a checkbook? Oh, just kidding. Mike.
Right, time for the final step. All right, if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Eden Blair,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of member of Peoria County Board,
of member of Peoria County Board,
County of Peoria,
County of Peoria,
State of Illinois,
State of Illinois,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Dr. Blair. Welcome. Before we move on, any other comments? Seeing none. I apologize for taking my tie off, but it's really warm up here tonight. And for a lot of reasons. I'm not overly caffeinated today, but I am a little reflective. And I have had all my medicine. I'm really quite reflective. And so we have a new member who I can hardly wait to get started with. And we have an outgoing member who shared with us some of Rachel's sweet cake a few minutes ago. I'd like to ask if Alan, his wife, and Catherine would join me up front. I'm going to, again, move some stuff around on the agenda here. And we have a proclamation to do for Mr. Mayor. The clerk has to do something. He's
At this time, a proclamation recognizing Alan Mayer for 15 years of service as a county board member of District 6.
Thank you. I'm supposed to be looking to my left so I don't mess up. Alan, if you'll turn the other way. We also have a sort of little special thing, as young Catherine is going to read the proclamation from the chairman. It's me. on behalf of all these folks here, okay?
Whereas Peoria County wishes to recognize and thanks G. Allen Mayer for his 15 years of service to the Peoria County Board member for District 6. And whereas Peoria County recognizes G. Allen Mayer's extensive service to our organization, including serving as the chairman of the Tax and Economic Development Committee, Election Policy and Audit Committee, Ways and Means Committee, and Rules of Order Committee through his tenure. And whereas G. Allen Mayer was integral in creating the nonpartisan Peoria County Election Commission, and whereas G. Allen Mayer championed limiting the expansion of the hazardous waste landfill, and as chairman of the Regional Pollution Control Site Committee led the charge to enlarge the non-hazardous Peoria County landfill site. And whereas during his tenure, G. Allen Mayer was an advocate for the Headington Oaks Peoria County long-term care facility. And whereas G. Allen Mayer advocated for reforms to the Peoria County financial policies, including ensuring that the external auditing firm was periodically rotated. And whereas G. Allen Mayer was seen as a leader on the board as well as in the community, including being an active member of First English Lutheran Church, the Biltmore Heights Neighborhood Association, and WTVP. Now, therefore, I, Andrew A. Rand, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, do hereby recognize and thanks County Board Member G. Allen Mayer for his public service. Dated this 11th of July, 2019, Andrew A. Rand, Peoria County Board Chairman.
So you can guess which of my children takes more after me in certain things, and she does a fine job. We did a lot of thank yous and goodbyes 2 months ago, but I want to say thank you again. It's really been an honor serving around this horseshoe, and we talked earlier tonight after we cut my face in half on the cake about I spent a lot of years down over on that side, but it moves very quickly. Suddenly you're over here. And I'm hopeful. I've spent several years keeping Jimmy and Phil apart, so I hope this isn't a problem. It's like keeping, the problem kids apart in a classroom. But as I said back in June, you really hope to leave a place better than when you found it. That's really what our goal should be on everything in our community, and that. And I'd like to think that I've done that for all these reasons and a bunch of other stuff, but none of it was by myself. One of the things that I learned, and that I think Chairman Rand knows that I helped him learn, is that you can't do anything until you get to 10 around here, and that usually means, as Jimmy was talking about, both sides of the aisle working towards consensus. And I think we got a really good organization that's going to continue doing that, and I'm very excited for all the things that this organization has done and is going to keep doing. So thank you guys for letting me be a part of this, and thank you to the voters who let me represent them. And I'm very excited that my friend Eden, Dr. Blair, said yes. I didn't think she would, so you guys are going to be very blessed with having her represent the folks in Central Peoria and help out so much with economic development that we all say is our #1 priority, and that's literally the stuff that she has a PhD in. So I hope you guys take advantage of that. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Buddy. One more thing. I know Alan, I had a chance to take a look at a home in Springfield, probably before the kids saw it even, because I live in an old house, and he and Carrie were buying a house in a historic district, and having lived through paying more for it to fix it than I bought it for, he wanted my advice. And of course, there are people who are tradesmen HVAC and plumbers and electricians and carpenters and all, all the trade professions that really know that stuff, but I know what everything costs. So I said it was a good plan, so go ahead and buy it. And Lowe's is probably a place you guys are going to a lot. So this will help you go to Lowe's. And good luck to all of you. I'm sure I'll be seeing you in Springfield as I do some more work down there. We just moved, AMT's growing, and we're going to miss you. And you did a fine job tonight, and your brother's going to be so jealous of all this video. Take care. Thank you, Alan.
Next, a proclamation recognizing the 100th anniversary of the National Easter Seals Organization.
Mr. Robinson.
All right, Mr. Chairman, am I supposed to have Mr. Runyon come and join me up here now?
Sure should. I think he should.
Mr. Runyon,
Jim?
would you please come and join me as we give you this proclamation? Before we start, I'd like to say hello to one of my pastoral brothers, Pastor Hightower in the house, who's the president of the local NAACP. Now, after following young Miss Mayor, I hope I can do this all right. Proclamation. Whereas Peoria County wishes to recognize the 100th anniversary of the National Easter Seals Organization, as well as that of Easter Seals Central Illinois, a leading advocate and exceptional service provider working to ensure children with developmental delays and disabilities can reach their full potential. And whereas in 1919, following the sudden death of his son, Edgar Allan founded an organization in Ohio, now known as Easter Seals, to highlight and address the health care and service needs of children with disabilities. And whereas also in 1919, Doctors Hugh Cooper and S.H. Easton started a weekly crippled children's clinic in downtown Peoria to serve children with disabilities, and it later grew into the Crippled Children's Coordinating Committee. And whereas in 1936, the Crippled Children's Coordinating Committee entered into a relationship with the National Easter Seal Society, thus linking two fine organizations under the Easter Seals banner. And whereas, since its inception, Easter Seals has strongly advocated for essential services and support for individuals with disabilities and diverse needs. And whereas Easter Seals has grown to become a leading national network of more than 70 community-based nonprofit organizations who deliver high-quality local services and support to help more than 1.75 million children and adults with disabilities achieve milestones, live independently, and fully participate in their communities. And whereas the County of Peoria has been well served by the Easter Seals Peoria Service Center here in Peoria and 5 other locations across the heart of Illinois. And whereas Easter Seals is a strong partner with local, state, and federal government, corporations, foundations, and other sectors to provide or connect individuals and families to early intervention and childhood education services, autism spectrum disorder services, mental health services, respite, camping and recreation, and caregiving supports. And whereas Easter Seals continues the mission and commitment to service envisioned by its founder, who concluded that your life and mine shall be valued not by what we take, but by what we give. Now therefore, I, Andrew Rand, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, do recognize Easter Seals and its impact over the past 100 years in the lives of families in and around Peoria County and Central Illinois, dated this, the 11th day of July, AD 2019. All right.
Jim always has a chance to speak here.
All right, Mr. Runyon, here's the microphone.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jim Runyon. I'm Executive Vice President at Easter Seals Central Illinois. Since our proclamation was long, I'll be very brief. We are one of 72 Easter Seals affiliates across the country. Only 7 of us trace our roots to the same 1919, the national organization, and we are one of those. So Peoria has something to be very proud of there. The other thing I would say very quickly is Easter Seals is a fine organization. I've spent the last 13 years of my life and my career there, but it is just one of a very robust human service sector that represents this community and serves it so incredibly well, and which helps build the quality of life in this community so that people want to come and stay and live here. So we're very proud to be a part of that human service sector that serves especially young children with disabilities. So thank you very much.
Jim, I've known you for as long as I've been in Peoria, and I forget exactly when you landed at Easter Seals. I think we met at CWTC or maybe through Park back when I had hair, right? So congratulations, not just on the 100 years, but the continued impact that you and Mr. Thompson create for the kids. And if you haven't gone over to Easter Seals and seen the services that people receive for their children who need special help early in life, it's just remarkable. And they do it whether you can afford it or not. And it's a significant part of their story. And I know for all of the fundraising that occurs in Central Illinois for fine nonprofits, Easter Seals certainly is amongst the most preeminent brands there are in town for services to people who need them, regardless of their ability to pay. And congratulations.
Next, a presentation by the Economic Development Council.
Thank you. Set this up for you a little bit. This young man is part of the team at the Economic Development Council. Their new, but not new to us, executive is hiding in the back there, Chris Setti, who came from a storied career over at City Hall a few years ago to join the EDC after Jennifer Daly moved to Iowa City. One of the things about the EDC, I like to describe it as the place where business and government intersect, and we have a partnership with several counties in Central Illinois, several cities, especially the city of Peoria, in that we're participants not only in the governance at the EDC, but with other major community enterprises, whether they be for-profit or not-for-profit. Just this week, after I'm so glad Pastor Hightower is here tonight, because he and I had breakfast a few weeks ago, and I told him this was about to happen. Just this week, Chris Setti and the team presented to the board of directors of the EDC, of which I represent you there, a modification to their bylaws, which now provide for 5 community members, and those community members are expected to represent diversity, as in people of color or different faiths, or even different geographies that aren't necessarily covered by the map. But I had helped to drive the conversation so that all the people at the table could help change the outcome for many Central Illinoisans who are left behind in tough times and may not be getting the right amount of help or assistance or recognition in the contracts we have with organizations. Most importantly, if you don't want to change the outcome, you got to get a seat at the table. And I was talking to Pastor Hightower about this just a few weeks ago. It's been a long time coming, but it's really happened quite quickly at the EDC, because once the executive board, which I sit on for you, realized this was important to me, Chris said he went and figured it out. So we'll be talking more about that, I think, in executive committee the next time. Those 5 community directors also represent 2 seats on the executive board, and 1 of them must be a member of the nominating committee of the EDC to help perpetuate the intent of the bylaws. So that's a real news flash from the EDC. A few months ago, also, I happened to see a presentation from this young man about the impact that agriculture and innovation in agriculture in Central Illinois is having, and none of us know anything about it. And one of the things Mr. Elsesser is fond of asking me is, why are we working with the EDC? And we'll just see if maybe some of those questions get answered today, because I thought after this presentation that we needed to see this. That's why I want to take time in the board meeting, not in the committee meeting, for everyone to see it. So no pressure, okay?
Thank you, Chairman, for the invitation to speak to, and thank you all for your time. As he mentioned, we've been taking a closer look at the EDC at agriculture, but I'll set it up first with just kind of how we got there and my role at the EDC. I'm the Director of Communications and Outreach and also the Rural Development Coordinator. And I took on the Rural Development Coordinator about 1.5 years ago. And when I came into it, really since then I've been in sort of a period of revising and remodeling what our program is and should be, because we've never really had a very distinct rural development program at the EDC. Before my time, there had been a couple other people. There was a lot of role turnover in the position, and so I was excited at the opportunity to take a look at our rural development program and see maybe what we could do different and what we could do that was unique that wasn't being done. So in general, outreach, sharing of resources, and then this promoting and diversification and innovation in agriculture is kind of the additional thing that we wanted to add. Oh, here we go. My screens aren't the same. Sorry. So what we will continue to do, and we've always done, and always room for improvement, is rural outreach. One of the main things that I do at the EDC is try and get out into all the communities in our 5-county region, which, so we cover a 5-county region: Peoria, Woodford, Tazewell, Mason, and Logan counties. And that's our federal district, our economic development district. So my job is to get out as much as I can and meet face-to-face with community leaders, community members, try and bring more communities into the fold, into the work that we do at the EDC. Also just try and understand better what the challenges out there are, what the opportunities are, and connect people with their resources, with our partners, whether it be the Small Business Development Center for some Main Street communities that are looking for help in getting some businesses started, or whether that's business attraction, which we do at our organization. And now we have a new full-time business attraction director, Lenora Fisher, who joined us previously from the Morton EDC. Sally, as you see in that picture there, our business assistance director, who helps with expansions and retention, our startup director. So it's just that continuing to connect people with the programs we already have going on, making sure people are aware of them, and then getting them to the other partners that can assist. This resource sharing, kind of more of that another thing we can do, and we're doing more of, is to do some more educational or workshop experiences together and build the capacity of economic developers and community developers in our rural communities. So for instance, we've been trying to put together some sponsorships and small grants, maybe you call them, to help send more people to some of these conferences and workshops around the state, and going together as more of a cohort to learn about some innovative ways to approach rural development. So we've sent, I think the Illinois Institute for Rural Affairs annual conference down in Springfield this last spring in March, we sent a representative from each county to that. Actually, I think we had 2 from Elmwood this year. We have a couple people that we're helping send to the Midwest Community Development Institute in August, one from Elmwood. And so just trying to improve knowledge, share knowledge. The Rural Ping, just a newsletter that I've been trying to be better about getting out more often, just to share those resources that come through my email, let people know about grants and programs. So beyond that, the additional approach I wanted to take, and I think this comes from my own personal interest for years in agriculture and food systems, and also an interest in what are some ways to really bridge rural development and urban development. And a lot of it, for me, has always come back to food systems and agriculture. And so I really wanted to start taking a closer look, being in central Illinois and being one of the greatest places in the country to grow anything in the world, really. But what else could we be doing here? We have a great industry built around commodities, as everybody knows. But I really wanted to look at what else, given everything that we've been hearing, especially this year and a half, with trade wars, with weather, with the inconsistencies in agriculture. What can we do to help diversify? What can we do to help farmers diversify and innovate? What can we do to position our region as a place, from the outside looking in, as a place that is taking agriculture, innovation, and diversification seriously, and how that might improve business attraction, talent attraction, and those types of things. So I wanted to point out, it's pretty small on your screens there, but I wanted to also, I'm trying to also tie the work that we're doing at the EDC to some of the existing strategies and plans, especially in the state. And there's a strategy that was put together called Farm Illinois years ago. University of Illinois, Illinois Farm Bureau, and a handful of others came together and put together this great strategy that basically the whole idea is how can we position our state to be a leader in agriculture. And this, the state cannot rest on its impressive laurels. We need new understanding, new approaches, and it's really an opportunity to be a leader. And I highlight that one because I say even the state of Illinois would love to be a leader, especially in this industry. But here in our region, we have that opportunity to be even more of a leader given our history in agriculture and our capabilities here. So we're keeping that in mind as we move forward, that larger strategy. And then we also are wanting to start looking more into technology and its role in agriculture. What is that going to mean for our rural communities, for our farms? How do we make sure that we're capturing more of this technology in our region, that we're maybe even getting ahead of the curve when it comes to things, say, like broadband in cropland? How can we be the ones that spearhead this and really show how it can be done? How are we using technology to make sure that we're increasing the efficiency of farmers, but also increasing the revenue streams for farmers? Another thing to keep in mind as we look forward in agriculture is the shift in young farmers. I know one of the things you hear a lot today is nobody wants to come back to the farm. Larger farms, less farmers, aging farmers. Well, there is a cohort out there in this country that is interested in farming. There are beginning farmers and there's new farmers, and that group is growing. And there's even programs growing to support the development of new and beginning farmers. And when you start to look at the demographics of young beginning farmers, it's starting to change. It's becoming farmers that don't necessarily come from backgrounds in farming. They have different education than maybe today's farmers do. They tend to be more women, more people of color. And there's definitely a growing interest in some of these more sustainable types of farming, or at least how they label them: sustainable, organic, holistic management, these types of things. And so starting to think of our approach to rural development as how do we attract this growing cohort of beginning farmers in our region and in the Midwest and the country? How do we position ourselves to say, if you want to be a beginning farmer and you're interested in some alternative types of farming, this is the place to come do it. This is where we're taking it seriously, and we're taking a close look at these things. And then also looking ahead to the changing food industry. And this is where we really get that span of where it can break out of rural development even, of this developing supply chain for our food industry. Everywhere from production, like we've been talking about, in the changing and the alternative farming systems, through to production and the types of food products that are being created. I've pulled these from a website called The Future Market, which is a comes from an organization that is looking at these things and what the future of food is. And one of these things is Kernza Crunch, and I like that example because this is, you know, a dry good, a consumer packaged good on the shelf, but it comes from Kernza, which is an alternative crop, a perennial wheat that's been the Land Institute in Kansas has been developing for around 20 years. That is actually starting to hit the market, and farmers are putting it in the ground, and there are farmers in Illinois putting Kernza in the ground. So what does that mean for our region, how we're positioning ourselves, all the way from production of things like Kernza that will have applications in consumer packaged goods. This is a blackbird, a blockchain bird. And this speaks to what are we doing to make sure we're attracting the type of technologies, those people that are creating those technologies like blockchain that will apply to agriculture and our food supply chain. I've also been taking a deeper look at how these things are being funded, and you'll notice when you look at some of the literature that's coming out, the one on the left, Harvesting Opportunities from the St. Louis Fed, they put that out at the end of 2017, and it really takes a close look at how regional food systems are being used as drivers of rural economic development. The CDFA, I think oh gosh, their name is escaping me now. Certified Development Financial Agencies, something. They've just started putting out this series of white papers, which are really showing how some of these traditional funding streams, so your TIF districts, your different bonds, and that can be applied to food systems. And they're noticing that there are some more traditional ways to start funding these things that we might not have thought of before. It doesn't have to be the food systems projects don't only have to be funded by grants, and these can be for-profit models, and there's an actual investable model here when it comes to these developing food systems. So I've also been taking a closer look at our region. I know this is Mason County. I've been trying to understand better in our region, you know, what our strengths are and what our assets are in agriculture. Mason County, there's already lots of specialty crops being grown down there. They have the Muhammad Aquifer underneath them, great resources there. In Woodford County, we've been looking. I did a scan of the 2017 census, and as far as I can tell with my quick analysis, Woodford has the most USDA certified organic farm operations in the state right now. And as you see, it's not a small number compared to the others around it, Tazewell as well. So we got a lot of farms there that are transitioning from traditional conventional corn to organic feed corn. Something to keep an eye on. What does that mean for how we, position our region or market our region? And Peoria County has, I just got a list from Illinois Department of Ag of the number of applications that they received for industrial hemp, 29 so far, just in Peoria, as you can see, more than the other counties, at least in our region. So at the EDC, we've been taking a closer look at the industrial hemp and that supply chain and what we can be doing here to develop that full supply chain here from production, and keeping an eye on working with the farmers that are planning on growing this. Right now, a lot of people are focused on this CBD crop, but looking down the road, what we're interested in are things like the fiber crop, which could act more like a third crop for conventional farmers and have lots of applications in textiles and building materials. We have a great startup here in Peoria called Natural Fiber Welding, which is a prime candidate to utilize something like hemp if we had that full supply chain here, a company to process it in a way that a company like Natural Fiber Welding could actually use it to manufacture goods with. So we're doing our part at the EDC to look into attracting those processors here, or looking at who's doing that in our region and helping them grow, and working with the farmers who are developing these business models around hemp. And just the last couple of minutes, I just wanted to share some of the other things related to food and agriculture that we've been doing at the EDC. I've been the co-chair of the Regional Fresh Food Council the last year and a half. It was only supposed to be a year, I think, but it's going on a year and a half here. That's a regional group that's looking at the full supply chain, building values-based regional food supply chains, improving food access. As part of that, we worked on this for the last year, this grocery gap. We actually had a couple board members help with that, Ms. Patushka and Ms. Williams. This came out of the 2 Kroger stores that closed. Actually, just last week, we finally released this report that came out of that last night at the Minority Business Development Center. We had our first meeting, which is what that picture's from, to discuss this report. And we're really trying to take an approach to food access with an economic development angle of how can we empower people to create businesses that improve access to fresh, healthy foods, but also creating sustainable business models in the meantime. That's really where that conversation's headed. Working with Savannah Institute outside Hannah City, they're working with a farmer to do a research and development site for agriculture, an alternative farming system that is, they're trying to understand how this type of farming can be scaled up commercially and not just be backyard permaculture, but actual, commercial scale agriculture based in agroforestry and tree crops. Local foods, local places. Peoria was one of 15 communities in the country selected for this program. The EDC and Regional Fresh Food Council helped bring that to town. We had a 2-day workshop in Peoria looking at basically how can we get something like a food hub established in the South Side. Live Local Conference, we worked with the CVB to convince the Illinois Farm Bureau to hold their local regional food conference here in Peoria next March. So that will be exciting. We've been involved with that the last 2 years. These farm forums we've been having to get farmers together in the region to talk about what is it that you want to do, what are you interested in terms of diversification and innovation, so that we know where the interest lies and what we can work on together. And the bottom picture is we have, with the help of a board member, we're sending someone to this workshop at Spence Farms to learn more about diversified farming and the business modeling that is associated with this type of farming. It's an urban farmer in Peoria who's trying to build his urban farm, and he's going to go out at the end of this month and learn more about that. So, oh geez, I won't spend too much time on this. The Peoria Innovation Hub has many components tied to food and agriculture. This is a project that's been in the works for a long time, but basically a new hub in downtown Peoria that would be developed. But what I've been looking at is how we could also develop some innovation farms, possibly, alongside that to provide spaces to some scalable spaces for agriculture innovations, ag tech, alternative cropping systems, actually applying them in the field, and those things being in communication with that downtown hub and allowing farmers and entrepreneurs to work in some working farmland. Those are just examples of other research and development farms that exist. But I've taken a lot of time. There's my name and my info. Any questions? Do we have time for questions?
Sure we do. This is a really shortened version of the one I saw, and towards the end, these latter couple of slides, I looked over at Brian and wanted him to get a sense of how this innovation hub that is coming to downtown Peoria can be leveraged to connect to, not downtown, but farms just, let's say, in the county, to do really interesting research on how to grow and make money using innovation and the access to that innovation hub. And that's where you really got my attention. Any questions for him? Kate.
Not a question necessarily, but more of a comment, because my husband's side of the family they've got dairy farmers in Wisconsin and corn and soybean farmers over in Western Illinois. And, one of the things that I think, especially up in Wisconsin, is they've taken over the old family farm, and they're at this point where they need to make a decision whether to upgrade and modernize or just get out of the business altogether. So I think it's a good resource for farmers to have somebody else doing this research that, farmers may not have time to do on their own, and to share that information with them. And the farmers that live over in Western Illinois, they are in a situation where they're very successful. They've got great farms, but their kids are leaving. They don't want to take over the family business. So I think it's a good bridge. So I want to thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. That reminds me too that along with that, I want people to know too, we're not doing this in a vacuum. We're as we go, I've been building great relationships with the Illinois Farm Bureau, with our county farm bureaus, with the Illinois Stewardship Alliance, with a group called Regenerate Illinois and the Idea Farm Network, reaching out to people in Chicago, that Farm Illinois group. So as we go, I'm making sure, because we aren't, at the EDC, we aren't experts in agriculture, right? I think, as you see here, what our idea is, how do we spur these conversations? And along the way, we need to build those relationships with those organizations that do have the expertise, and we're doing that and learning a lot along the way. So.
Rachel?
Do appreciate your presentation today, and just one thing I wanted to point out, because of my work with Monica and the health department, I know she's been involved in specifically local food, local places, and some of the other partners that you've been talking about with. So just wanted to hear a little bit more about your work or communication with our local health department.
Yeah, the health department and the Tri-County health departments are all three very active in the Regional Fresh Food Council, and the group she's also involved with, the Building Healthy Communities. She sits on that. That's really when Shannon Tetchy was with the city of Peoria, she was with the Building Healthy Communities group, and that's really who wrote the initial application for Local Foods, Local Places, which is a technical assistance program provided by the EPA. So she was part of that group that helped bring that to Peoria. And we work alongside the health departments all the time with the Regional Fresh Food Council. They're very much drivers of that local foods, the food access issues for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Elsasser.
Well, thank you, Tori. I'm quite impressed with how much you know about agriculture. So I'm a farmer. I don't know if you knew that or not, but looking at the slides, first of all, I did not apply for the industrial hemp. Maybe I should have, but and also I thought that was our tractor and auger wagon in that one picture, but it was actually a little bit smaller. But agriculture is changing, that's for sure. I mean, the organic farming is becoming more prevalent. It's not, taking over or anything like that, but one of our neighbors is very engaged in it and doing a very good job. A lot of farmers, or some farmers, especially in the livestock industry, are bypassing, the Tysons of the world and people like that, and just selling their finished product to the local grocery store, or local market, and doing quite well in that regard too. So livestock operations, grain operations always have to look for a way to sharpen their pencil a little bit and make more money, because commodity prices have been lower the last few years, and we want to expand our markets any way we can. I did have one comment about Kate's relatives in Wisconsin that are dairy farmers. The dairy industry just is more of a trivial thing, but it's not trivial for them. But they've absolutely taken a complete bloodbath the last 5 years. I mean, there's a national suicide hotline that's been set up for the dairy farmers. I mean, that's how bad it's been. And so you can just look at it when you go into Aldi's, and milk's 98 cents a gallon, and it used to be $3 a gallon 10, 20 years ago when we had 6 kids at home. So I'm not sure why it wasn't that cheap back then. But so the dairy farmers really have taken a bath, and so it's a tough business. So thank you very much.
Over here.
Mr. Watkins.
That building you're talking about downtown, is that ICC College?
The old Thomas building?
Okay.
Yeah, the old Thomas building.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And so to your point, I just wanted to say too, what we're looking at too is in addition to what we already have, right? It's not replacing the system that's there, but what else can we do? And it reminded me of an example that I've looked close at in Central Illinois and really want to do more of, is a farmer out in Iroquois County who is a conventional farmer who decided to start growing some organic wheat. Then a few years after that, with the help of Extension, was able to build a mill for organic grains. And now he has a very legitimate, nice-looking, mid-sized milling facility in Iroquois County that dozens of these farmers that are growing these organic food-grade wheat grains are milling them there, and they've literally sat down at a table with bakers and restaurants and grocery store owners and the miller and the farmers and said, what is the price going to be, and it's going to be fair for all of us. And they're developing their own small supply chains that are based on everybody sitting at the table and working out prices that work for them and making it more equitable for everybody. So I think those are really cool examples of things that even conventional farmers are doing on the side to increase their own revenue streams and rebuild some of these markets.
That is very impressive, because our former Secretary of Agriculture, Earl Butts, who most of you in the room don't remember from years ago, always took his loaf of wheat bread up on the podium when he spoke, and he said, "Do you know how much the farmer's receiving from this?" Well, I think it was like 3 cents out of 50 cents. I think a loaf of bread was 50 cents back there. I'm not sure what it is now exactly, but so they're going to be able to, bring more money back into the local community and to their farming operation than that 3 cents, I think, by doing it themselves.
Right.
Dr. Blair, welcome. You're going to wade out from the safety of the shoreline over there?
I'm going to try.
That's what I used to say for like a whole year from that very chair. Go ahead.
Are you developing relationships with the Ag Lab? I know that they often have IP just sitting around waiting to be commercialized. So.
Yeah, and I've had the chance, especially with, I mentioned it there, and I'm sorry I breezed over it, not realizing that was the thing you really enjoyed. But this the innovation farm concept, I've been working with ICC, the Ag Lab, Extension, Savannah Institute, a couple others I'm probably forgetting here. But J.L. Willett with the Ag Lab has been joining us for those conversations, and they've also shown a large interest in trying to find new ways for them to get out there. People don't know what they do, and they even told us that sometimes they've had clients come to them because they have people come to them helping with commercialization of their products, that they've actually taken them out of the country to find for farmland to prototype things, which seems ridiculous, right, in our region. And so they're actually very excited, because they're limited by space there in their facility. They're excited by the idea of having something like an innovation farm where they can also have a space to interact more with the community and more with Peoria, and they're very interested in capturing more of that intellectual property in our region.
Thank you. Ms. Pastusha?
I just wanted to clarify. You said something about your example of the farmer who had the mill.
Mm-hmm.
You said he was helped by the extension.
Yeah, so it's Janie's Mill. His name is Harold Wilkin, is the farmer.
But
Janie's Farm, but
you said this. You're talking about the U of I extension.
Yes, University
I just
of Illinois
wanted to bring that up and highlight that, because you kind of glazed over it, but we also had a presentation at the committee meetings by the U of I extension, which we partially fund through the county, correct?
Yes, like 1/3 of one penny.
Yeah, so I just wanted to highlight that, to say that this is a collaboration, and that's part of what the Illinois University of Illinois Extension does.
Yeah, we work very closely with them. Kathy Brown, we basically have a second office for her at our place. But she's the community and economic development educator, and we work very closely with Extension on all these things. For Career Spark, Kathy and I are both working on leading the development of the agriculture booth at Career Spark this year, and we've talked about how do we incorporate some more of these ideas to get what are the things that kids might be actually interested in. How do we bring technology more into that conversation at the agriculture booth? And so Extension's a key partner.
Thank you. Appreciate, Chris, you loaning us, Tori. I also encourage all the board members. The EDC meetings are subject to the Open Meetings Act, so everyone's invited until you're not. And I say that because there are some matters that, when I say subject to the Open Meetings, that they're not. We have an Open Meetings Act variant that we use to try to be as open as possible. Let me clarify myself. But there are some things that need to be taken into the executive session. But basically, I'm saying if you want to come see what we're doing, it's really remarkable. This conversation tonight really opened my eyes, more so in how much raw material, if I could say that, is grown here in central Illinois and then processed somewhere else. And the dollar value annually in terms of the state's gross domestic product is enormous because of those two things together. And there clearly is a little bit more money on the processing end than the production end, and that alignment is something that's of interest to me too. But a lot of industries in town get credit for employing a lot of people or producing a lot of economic product. The farming tab in production dollar-wise is extraordinary too, and it's really interesting to study And Tori really opened everybody's mind, so eyes up. So I appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. Lower our bills, please, and we'll try to stay with you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, so could I jump back 2 items, get a motion to approve the minutes, please? Thank you, Mr. Rosenbaum. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Any additions or corrections? Seeing none, please vote.
Mr. Elsesser. 15 ayes, 0 nays. Next, citizens' remarks.
Could I ask, invite to the podium, please, the front of the room, Addison and Rachel O'Reilly?
Hi, I'm Rachel O'Reilly. I'm here to, and this is Addison. We're here to talk to you about human and sex trafficking, specifically Alexis Camry Scott. Who here, show of hands, has heard about her or her case? Okay, good. Would you like to pass those out? The reward is now $5,000 for any information leading up to her arrest. I don't know how familiar you are with human and sex trafficking. What pimps will do is they will try and tell women that they can model or they can be eye candy at a party, and then they eventually try coerce them to become prostitutes. And what probably happened with Alexis is she probably, I don't know, do you know about 2 weeks before her disappearance, she was found naked and beaten in Las Vegas? Okay, so I also wanted to pass some things on that the mother, who is not here right now, so she went missing in September 2017, January 2018. The Carpenter brothers at that address was where she was missing. The Carpenter brothers have felons. Cedric Carpenter is due to be released pretty soon, and the conditions of his release is, one of them is he shall not meet, communicate, interact with convicted felons unless granted by a probation officer. The other men in the family are felons, so I mean he's going to be interacting with his family, which are family members. April wanted to let you know some of the things she said. She feels that the Peoria Police Department nor detectives can handle this family. She feels that they cannot find a probation officer with a backbone that can deal with the aggressiveness of the family. The entire family is made up of felons, drug users, drug dealers, and unlicensed gun users. Not one arrest has been made to date. Latrell Carpenter has an arrest warrant and the police know where he is, and why has he not been arrested when they know where he is and he has a warrant?
Addison, I just want to ask you to, I should have spoken a little bit about our rules here, and I'll make sure you have your time, is when you start using people's names or refer to employees of the county, and probation would be employees of the county, we don't permit anyone to speak disparagingly of them, so just kind of keep it in the middle and you'll be okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, she feels that the late Attorney General could have handled he got 3 years for distribution of heroin and fentanyl. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And April feels that the late Attorney General could have done more to keep him from getting this light of a sentences, heroin and fentanyl, and then he's getting off. Those are the conditions. He'll be released soon. And she feels that there could have been more with Alexis's case. From what she's saying, I'm feeling like he's getting a slap on the wrist. Okay, what else has she said? One moment, sorry. She wants to let you know that the men in that family line are abusive and disabling. They continue to raise children to be the same way, including Trevor Carpenter. Sorry, I'm a little disorganized with my thoughts. But basically, Peoria has a human and sex trafficking problem. Our Alexis Camry Scott campaign is on Facebook. You can follow. Please donate, but we have over 4,500 members, and it's national. So Peoria is on the map, and it's on the map for the wrong reasons. Nobody's going to want to come here if they know that we have a rampant human and sex trafficking problem. So please, if you can influence anybody, please influence whoever you can. Like I said, the Latrell Carpenter has a warrant out on his arrest. They know where he lives. That address on the flyer is where he lives, and he has a warrant. So if there's anything we can do, you can do to please make Peoria safe and give Alexis Camry Scott justice and her mother peace of mind, it would really, really be appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Allison. Mr. Clerk.
Next, zoning ordinance and resolutions. Item 1, a joint resolution from your Budget Committee and your Public Safety and Justice Committee recommending approval of an additional appropriation to the FY 2019 Emergency Telephone System Board capital budget in the amount of $775,027 for public safety answering point improvements and updates, and receipt of NG 911 grant award in the amount of $460,551.
Thank you. Could I get a motion? Thank you, Mr. Rosenbaum. And you really want to do this, Brian? You want to second it? Okay, because I saw Mr. Fennell too. I think this needs a little explanation. I know there's a few people here tonight. If Mr. Sorrell would just make the general comments, and then I know Miss Marion's here. Is Dave Tuttle here too?
Mr. Tuttle is not here this evening. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to provide an overview, and if I miss anything, I'm sure Ms. Marion will either correct, clarify, or add to my comments. So before you use a resolution that is a budget amendment to the ETSB budget, it does a couple of things. One, the ETSB received a grant in the amount of $460,551. So part of your approval tonight is the acceptance of that grant, and then the budget amendment to appropriate those dollars so that the ETSB can spend them. The purpose of those dollars are for capital improvements to the public safety answering points, or PSAPs. We have 2 of them in our county. This is towards and goes towards and is part of Next Gen 911. This is occurring across the entire state. This was a planned capital improvement of the ETSB with a total project cost of $795,000. You can see in the agenda briefing how that is broken out in terms of building improvements, equipment, and furniture. The furniture are the consoles for the telecommunicators, which are the folks that actually answer 911 when anyone calls. So that's where the $795,000 budget comes from. How they're going to come up with the revenue to spend that is $460,551 is the grant that I just mentioned. The balance is $314,476. That will come from reserves of the ETSB fund. That was a planned expense, and what is critical to note is the value of the grant is larger than what was anticipated. Therefore, the use of reserves is less than anticipated. I'm happy to answer any questions. Amy, did I leave anything out that we need to add?
Glad you're here, Amy. Welcome. Any questions? I think I asked a bunch myself in public safety. So the funding for the ETSB accumulates funds in a specific fund balance that we maintain for them. It's not subject to use by the county. It's expressly for the Emergency Telephone Systems Board to manage the equipment, the technology, the connections, the data, and something as simple as telephones. The plant technology I think they're using is the 1A2 tip and ring, which is the old rotary phone system. I probably know more about it than I knew, right? So I'm not saying they're coming into the digital age. I'm saying they can't push the plant technology beyond its useful life, and the next gen system is what they need to move forward. We had 4 PSAPs just a few years ago, and the consolidation requirement that came from Springfield has collapsed that to 2. So the backup to the one downtown is in Bartonville, but we no longer have 4 PSAPs, so that redundancy's gone. Most importantly, again, a little bit maybe like highway or bridge, where we accumulate funds over time before we can spend them. The ETSB has several planned expenditures over the next decade. The 911 surcharge that's on all our phone bills and even probably voice over internet today, cable, and cell phones, so they don't miss those tariffs. We just constantly fund that into one of our accounts to fund their operations. We do ultimately have to approve the expenditures, but it is money that is dedicated and designed for our dispatch and emergency operations center. So they have my full blessing, and I appreciate the work you did, and I just wanted to add a little color to why there's a grab towards fund balances here that's for them. That's not out of the general fund or any other fund. It's a part of the anticipated expenditure. It's just a question of when, and they have the money. Okay, anyone else? Seeing no other questions, please vote. Thank you for being here tonight, Ms. Marion. Tell Mr. Tuttle, thank you.
15 ayes, 0 nays. Next, item 2, a resolution from your County Operations Committee recommending approval of plan design changes to the Peoria County Employee Health Plan.
Is that a motion to approve, Ms. Parker? Thank you. In a second. Thank you, Ms. Pastusha. Any questions or comments? Ms. Parker.
I just want to say I think Scott already explained a lot of that first go round earlier. I think the concern was just that employees wanted to make sure that they're going to have a chance to be informed of the changes is all. And he already mentioned that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Elsesser.
Well, when I came on the county board, this fund was basically in complete duress and almost bankrupt. And then we've made several changes, and we went all the way up to $14 million. And then, I sit here and ask today, how do we get back down to where we're at today? And I know it's, about the cost of health care and things like that. But then I think about our employees and anytime someone wants to go to work somewhere, the first thing they ask is, how much am I going to get paid per hour? But then soon after that, they start asking, what kind of a health plan is there? Because, that can add up to be worth a lot of money. And so are we still going to be competitive in, hiring employees and retaining the ones we have with raising the cost on their health plan this much? My second question is, are other governmental entities, counties, cities, going through the same challenges that we are? I mean, everybody is in our society as far as healthcare costs, but are they in duress, or are they doing okay, or where other governmental bodies like the city and Tazewell County and Sangamon County and places like this, what's their situation?
So there's sort of 2 questions there. Let me see if I can state the second one first. How do these proposed changes compare to the actual or current state of, let's just say, similar organizations? Okay. The first question was, will this reduce our competitiveness or increase our retention of employees? Did I get that right? See how quickly you can say that? So I don't I'm not sure who wants to try to take a whack at that. HR's in the house tonight. Do you want to?
Yeah, so I'll start, and if I need a little help, I'll call on
Okay.
Shauna. So let's talk about the potential loss of our employees. Maybe they shift to a spouse's or significant others plan, or do we lose employees? And then also the market competitiveness of attracting employees. Absolutely a concern of ours and of mine. Difficult to forecast what that outcome is actually going to be, though. But I would answer the first part of that question by answering the second part of the question, which is where do we stack up with some of those similar agencies? And I would say that we're actually behind the curve because we've enjoyed a significant fund balance for a number of years. We waited to make these changes, and I know I believe it was 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, the city made substantial changes. We are playing a little bit of catch up as a result. So, as I said in committee, the federal government through healthcare reform has a Cadillac plan tax. So if your plan is considered a Cadillac type plan, you could be assessed a fine. That's why we built our reserves up, so that in the event we were assessed that fine, we'd have the money on hand to do that. We were successful in avoiding that fine over the course of time, and as a result, though, we've had to keep some of our and many of our benefit levels static. What that means is others have passed us by, and as I said in committee, while the federal government referred to it as a Cadillac plan, we have something much better than that. We have a Rolls-Royce plan, and quite frankly, it's no longer affordable for the organization. It's not financially sustainable, and making the changes that are before you tonight really puts us in the median of both localities and similar-sized organizations that are self-insured like we are in the Midwest. We looked very closely at data from multiple foundations and a data collection agency that looks at this from a regional level, regional being the Midwest, and what is recommended here puts us in the median of about where we should be from actually a year to 2 years ago, because that's when we started working on this. The proposal stair steps the increased cost for the benefits over a 2-year period, so FY20 and FY21. As I said in a meeting today, to be financially sustainable in the long term, we'll have to revisit this on a recurring basis. This is not a one and done decision. So we've managed to keep healthcare affordable for the organization and for our employees and their dependents for a long time, and it's no longer financially sustainable to do that.
Did you cover both questions?
Well, I think the marketability or the attraction point is the fact that we're putting ourselves in the median place of the market. So if someone is using the cost of healthcare as a decision-making point for where they want to apply for a job or where they accept a job offer, we're going to be middle of the road in terms of what that cost is as it relates to other units of government, other employers that have a self-insured type of insurance coverage and package. So, difficult to estimate what that might be, but if we have a median and middle of the road type of coverage levels, that means that we should continue to be pretty competitive, I would expect. We're not the cheapest, but we're not the most expensive either.
I think maybe part of the question Mr. Elsasser could ask is our total benefits that are available to an employee at the median point, or is it just the health care? So time off,
So
paid education, pension.
So we have a variety of benefits within that in our package that we offer to employees. The most notable of which is the defined benefit pension system that IMRF offers. Private sector employers don't offer that. That is a significant recruiting tool that we have for folks that are looking at the long haul. We have a variety and sliding scale depending on what the position is and which collective bargaining unit it is in terms of paid time off, whether it be vacation time or sick time that can be accrued. We have a variety of benefits that are available depending on the collective bargaining agreement for whether it maybe be physical fitness bonus in the law enforcement units. The health insurance cost is something we already spoke to. Salary-wise, local government continues to probably be a little bit behind the curve. We're very similar to that. We see that on a routine basis, actually, in the nursing home as we attempt to recruit CNAs and LPNs. Wages are an issue, but we have cost controls as well. So we have a variety of benefits that make us cost competitive. I would say one thing that is in the recommendation tonight that are going to be new benefits that can help us make it more competitive is outcome of an employee survey that we did. Right now, vision coverage, which is folded into the health care coverage, it's not a standalone plan. Right now, we allow for a $100 allocation for every employee independent once every 2 years for exams, which are covered at 100%, but for new corrective lenses, frames, or contacts, our employees during the survey asked if that could be every year. We saw that as something that is viable and that we can afford, so that's included in the recommendation. Additionally, when you look at the high deductible health plan, today our high deductible health plan is not an IRS qualified high deductible health plan. The recommendation would be to make it. That allows for the creation of health savings accounts, which will be a benefit to the employee that participates in the plan, their dependents. You can make an allocation that is tax-free going in, and as long as you use it on a qualified health expense, it is tax-free going out. The employee directly controls that health savings account through their own personal financial institution. We do not. We merely process it through a payroll in terms of the whatever allocation might be made. So those are two new benefits should you approve the resolution before you that will enhance the market competitiveness that we have in addition to all the other benefits in our comprehensive benefit package that we offer today.
Thank you for that last clarification, Scott. Mr. Elsesser. You good?
Yes, thank you. There's a lot of information there to think about.
Thank you. You ought to talk to him on the phone as much as I do. Just kidding. Okay, motion on the floor. Any other comments? Seeing none, please vote. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Scott.
15 ayes, 0 nays. Next, miscellaneous and announcements.
Pastor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last month I wasn't able to attend due to illness, so I just wanted to take 1 second and just give my condolences to the Brady and Adamson and Sonamaker families, and want them to know that I, as a praying man, going to continue to keep those families in prayer, and God bless. Also, I wanted to let everyone know who had been involved with helping me with the gala project. We're still doing the gala. We just got some work to do on the church. I will give you the new date as soon as I get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. So a little tradition as we go around the room, if you have something to say that's permissible. So I usually start here on the left. Welcome, Dr. Blair. Can't wait. Mr. Renaud.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to take a second and welcome Dr. Blair. I look forward to working with you and to say best wishes to Alan and his family. I was introduced to Alan pretty early on when I threw my name into the hat, and Alan shared just a fraction of his knowledge with me, which is a lot. And I couldn't have done it without you, so thank you for everything.
Thank you. Ms. Pastuccio.
I just want to also say welcome to Peoria County Board, and I'm looking forward to working with you. I also was impressed by your resume, and can't wait to talk to you one-on-one, but welcome. And also, Alan, I'm going to miss you, so I'm going to try not to cry here, but thank you for all your help.
Mr. Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Eden, and we'll look forward to working with you. And I'm glad we have somebody with that resume to come on board with us. You got big shoes to fill with Alan's place, but I'm sure you'll do fine. And Alan, yes, I'm going to miss you. I always loved it because the parliamentary procedure I learned in 4-H wasn't as in-depth as what yours were. You could always keep us on track. And I was glad I didn't have to debate you on issues because I knew it would be an awful hard one to win. Good luck. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Ms. Parker.
That's true, Alan. We're going to see who keeps Andrew in order while you're gone. We'll see whose new role that is. But yes, thank you for all your help, and thank you for your support in my business. You're a great customer, and hopefully you'll come back whenever you need a cake.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
Good luck to coming on the board, and good luck for leaving the board.
Mr. Dillon.
I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but Dr. Blair, welcome. And the best part of this, not only serving the community, is the friendships you make. And what I gained from Alan as a lifelong friend, even though he won't live in Peoria anymore, he will never be a stranger. And I'm sure even if we don't talk for a while, the conversation will pick up like it was exactly yesterday. So that I can never thank this board enough and Alan enough, as from the friendship of the decade plus we've served side by side. Hopefully what I would consider making Peoria County a better place, like Alan said it. So there's never been more tireless worker on this board, or more prepared. And as Paul said, if you knew Alan was on your side in any argument, you felt pretty good about the argument. So I said it last time, Peoria's loss is Springfield's gain, but one of the good things about it is that Conrad and Catherine will always call this home, and this is for 2 transplants. You would never know that what they gave back to this community is above and beyond. So what you said up there today about leaving the place better than you found it, I think everybody wishes, but Alan, you truly left Peoria County a better place than you found it. So thank you.
Phil. Mr. Salzer.
Welcome, Dr. Blair, and I want everybody to know this. If you got a trivia contest, she's a good one, and both Carrie and Alan will attest to the fact that, she's a good partner on trivia, so count on her if you get into a trivia match somewhere. Of course, a couple months ago, I said what I had to say about Alan and Carrie and so forth, but Catherine is a good example of when you lose a family, and the family are the children. And she and Conrad both are going to go on to bigger and better things, I believe, and I hope they will contribute like their parents have done to whatever community they go to and advance, of course, mankind, which I know they will be able to do. But tonight, she jogged my memory a little bit, because when Catherine stood up there and said, "Let's have a moment of silence," usually, I don't know what you people do in your moment of silence, but I think about the good things that, I've experienced and so forth. But I think about, tonight I thought about the two guys, because they were still alive when we had our last county board meeting. And that is Steve Sonamaker and Jerry Brady. What wonderful people. Ethical? God, I don't know two more ethical individuals. We're not going to replace them. We're going to fill their jobs, absolutely. But I knew each one of these guys for nearly 50 years. Jerry by way of the Central Park swimming pool up there at Peoria High School. And of course I worked about 7.5 years from Steve Sonamaker down in the auditor's office. And I could speak about both of them and make this meeting last a long time. But Steve Sonamaker was that kind of a guy. I said when you had a friend, he was a friend. And he was as fair, and Jerry was fair also. I didn't deal as much with Jerry as I did Steve. But the years I worked with Steve, and this is what you like in an elected official. I'd answer that phone, or somebody would walk up to that counter, and they say, is Steve in? Or, can I talk to Steve? He never turned anybody down. And I know I've heard of people say, oh, I don't want to talk to that individual today. He didn't care who they were. And he solved problems for them. Information, he was that IMRF guy here for a number of years. And he saw to it that guys like Larry, if the law was changed for military people, we had some military people. I don't think, do we have any military people on the board today? This might be the first time we've ever not had somebody from the military on our board. But some of these guys that were on the board before many of us, Steve would tell them about, hey, the law's changed now. You can get more credit for your pension and so forth. He kept people really well informed. He went out of his way. On bids, did you ever hear of any controversy when he dealt with the bids? When you got those bids from those individuals, you had a procedure to follow, and you better follow it with him, because he was exact. And there wasn't any hanky-panky. I know one particular individual, one of his best friends, came in with a bid late. Steve absolutely would not take it. I know this guy was upset, but Steve followed the laws. Ethical, absolutely. And Jerry was always very informative when we would have a executive session, if any of you sat in there. But like I said, we're going to fill their jobs. We've had tragedies before, and this was a tragedy. I can remember working here when we lost Jim Dakin, our county administrator. We lost Chuck Schofield, and we lost Regina Spears. All three of those people in about a year. But I did think about Steve, and I did think about Jerry Brady. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Salter. Mr. Elsesser.
Well, Mr. Watkins, Jr. and myself were talking earlier that how the proclamation just wasn't quite the same with Steve Sonamaker's name absent there at the end. So we were thinking the same thing tonight. Alan, certainly wish you and your family God's blessings. Dr. Blair, we look forward to working with you. I just wanted to tell you that when Pat Hidden came on the board, she was one of my friends from across the aisle. The first thing I said to her, I said, the main thing is come and talk to me. Call me on the phone. If we can do that, we'll be in good shape.
Good luck to you, Alan. But years ago, I doubt if you remember it, we was out doing some work, and we worked our butt off. But I was very, very surprised when I got a check. You might not remember it, but that's all right, but I do.
Junior, you're a man of powerful words. Yes, Ms. Williams.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add, wishing Mr. Salzer a happy birthday. I believe it's tomorrow. So, yeah, so I wanted to wish you a happy birthday.
Can we do that in executive session next week? It'll make it go faster. My mother turns 89 tomorrow. And and she's still doing fine. So we're at miscellaneous. I think then what's the next agenda item? That's it. I think also Phil, Dr. Adamson would make that list of fine folks you were talking about tonight as well.
Yeah.
Dr. Adams at the last county board meeting.
He had passed away, and we had that ceremony for him before. Yeah.
Thank you. So here we are with a new member, retiring member, and he's a deceased member, where I'll pivot from that. But Alan and your wife, Carrie, have been essential to many, many things that I've been involved in the last 11 years. And your two children have just grown, and I know they make you very proud. Together, I think, even though Conrad's not here, I think they're both smarter than both of you, and that's a tall order. And I think that's one of the things that parents hope most for in life is that their children are safe and healthy and extremely successful. Church camp is a good enough excuse for not being here, I'm sure. To that end, I want you to know that the Director of Development for First English has asked me for a forwarding address for you and Carrie, as has Pastor Ryan Anderson. And he said they've been asking you for one, but you haven't given them one. So I'll make sure they know your address in Springfield, because I do already. I'm going to miss the heck out of you. You know, you and I have learned an awful lot together, and your grace with me on the phone many times will always be noted. So I appreciate it. And I know everybody here is perhaps wondering a little bit about the timeline for the other three appointments. And yesterday I asked Scott to extend it. I learned that we did not, while we noticed the party officials correctly and some other organizations, we did not get the press release out the way I thought it needed to be done. So I also was advised by some people that the electronic expectation that you download an application and fill it out and send it in is really, for those of us that have access to the internet and a printer, we do that perhaps routinely, but I'm going to have to think that out a little bit more in the future. So sending a letter of interest or a note of interest to me directly, or to Jan Clefman, or even a letter, and confidentially, if you mark it confidential, we'll make sure we stick to that. That date was moved from the 11th, right, to the 26th. And the 26th, I think, is like a Friday. I think we're saying 2 p.m. And then I plan on scheduling interviews Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of that week, not necessarily knowing which positions or which vacancies will go on those days. And I'm still trying to think through the interview teams a little bit. But that's an update, keeping it transparent with you. Don't think there's anything else I need to add to that. So with the grace of the young lady who opened tonight's meeting with a gavel, I will add it. If you'll come up here and close it and just say we're adjourned and bang it.
adjourned.